Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're getting into something lots of us have thought about, maybe even done: DNA ancestry testing. It promises those cool insights into where you came from, maybe that fun, oh, I'm 3% French fact.
Or maybe even a bit Neanderthal,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. But what if spitting in that tube has a cost, a hidden side we don't often talk about?
Indeed. And, while wanting to know our origins is pretty universal, our source today really challenges us. It's an article from monkeypaws.com called Spit, Swab, and Surrender. It kind of warns us to look past the flashy pie charts. It suggests that for all the fun, giving up your DNA, well, that might be a decision you can't actually take back once it's out there.
There's no unsend button, as the article puts it.
Precisely.
So our mission today is to really unpack those hidden risks. We're talking about how permanent this data is, how it could be misused commercially, and even what it means for big health projects. We'll explore why this stuff, your genes, might be way more valuable and vulnerable than you think.
Yeah.
We've all seen the ads, right? Maybe had friends showing off their results. It feels good, connection, nostalgia.
That sense of belonging. Yeah.
But this article, right off the bat, says this curiosity comes at a cost.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is how the author approaches this. They've got decades of experience in data security.
Right.
So when they hear promises like, we never sell your data, they treat it with, let's say, a healthy dose of suspicion. The piece points out that millions, literally millions, have done these tests, but maybe without fully getting what they agreed to or how permanent that click really is.
It's not just a one-time thing.
No, it echoes.
And this gets really concrete with the personal story in the article, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It's quite powerful. The author talks about his late wife's experience with a rare cancer. She was offered a full genomic screening. Now, this wasn't really for her immediate treatment.
Okay, so more for research.
Primarily, yes, to help others down the line. But then the geneticists dropped a bombshell. They revealed that once that report was finalized, it was required by law or policy at the time to be disclosed.
Disclosed? To who?
To insurers, financial institutions. Think about that. Information showing a genetic risk. Suddenly, that could affect her getting life insurance, maybe a mortgage, even just affordable travel insurance.
Wow. And this is years ago.
Almost a decade ago, the article says. It really highlights how this genetic data could follow you for life. It's not just a snapshot.
That's sobering. So, okay, what does this mean for people like us who just paid for the basic, ancestry report? Are they really getting our whole genome?
That's a great question, and the article clarifies this really well. They don't run a different, simpler test just for ancestry. They extract the full thing, your entire genome. You just haven't paid to see all those other results.
But the data's there.
Exactly. The raw data is there. It can be stored, it can be reanalyzed later, potentially resold, shared, or hacked, or even handed over legally. The article puts it bluntly. The real issue isn't discovering your part Viking.
Which is fun, admit it.
Oh, totally fun. But the issue is what happens after the fun, that long tail.
Right. So about those privacy policies, companies make these bold statements: we'll never sell your data, your consent is key. How solid are those, really?
Well, the source pulls no punches here. It says, privacy policies are just that, policies, not guarantees.
Okay. So words on a page.
Pretty much, and it digs into the language. Don't sell your data is not the same as don't share it. They often share it with, quote, research partners, affiliates, or third parties, sometimes under vague terms.
And what about making it anonymous? Doesn't that protect you?
You'd think so, but the article argues that anonymized data can often be re-identified, especially if you combine it with other data points out there.
Like social media or public records.
Exactly. It's not foolproof. Plus, policies can change. Companies get acquired. They go bankrupt. And the liquidators, they don't care what you clicked 5 years ago. It really hammers home that there's no unsend button.
And this isn't just theoretical, right? The article mentions 23andMe.
Yeah, it points to their recent troubles, a big data breach, financial problems. That left users asking, quite rightly, what happens to my incredibly personal data now? It makes the vulnerability very real. And to put this in a broader context, the article draws a really striking parallel from history.
Oh, what's that?
Sperm donors. Decades ago, they were absolutely promised lifelong anonymity.
Right, I remember hearing about that. Sealed contracts, special IDs.
All designed to protect them. Ironclad promises, supposedly.
But what actually happened? We know some of that changed.
It completely changed. Fast forward to today. Those documents often get unsealed. And it wasn't just DNA matching finding biological parents, though that happened too. Laws changed, public attitudes shifted.
So kids looking for their biological parents could suddenly get names, addresses.
Exactly. The article's point is that privacy was redefined, not just by law, but by technology and changing values. That trust of yesterday doesn't always survive the priorities of tomorrow. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, if it happened to them.
What about us and our genetic data?
Yeah, it's a powerful point. So that's the past echoing. What about the future? The article talks about the NHS, right?
Yes, moving from the past right into, well, basically now. It discusses the big news about the NHS plan in England. They're aiming to collect the full DNA of every newborn over the next decade.
Wow, every single one.
That's the plan. The goal is, early disease detection, moving towards personalized medicine. Sounds great on the surface. Yeah. But the article raises some serious flags. First, babies can't consent. It's proxy consent. And second, it points to the NHS's track record with cybersecurity. Mentioning ransomware attacks, data leaks, it asks if they're truly equipped to protect this scale of sensitive data.
So, thinking long term, what does this mean for a child growing up with their entire genome on file from birth? Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? The article makes you think about a child growing up potentially flagged for genetic markers, maybe for diseases, maybe for traits that an insurer or a bank or even a future employer might see as, quote, risky.
Feels dystopian.
And the piece asks, what happens if governments change or policies shift dramatically? It suggests you don't need a, quote, tinfoil hat to see where this leads.
Which brings us to this even bigger idea in the article, surveillance itself. It says something provocative. Orwell got the method wrong. What does that mean?
Right. It's a fascinating take. Orwell's 1984 pictured surveillance as this external thing, the government watching everyone from the outside, Big Brother.
Dollar screens, yeah.
But the article argues what actually happened is, well, we invited it in.
How so?
Think about it. Webcams, smart speakers listening in our homes, social media where we share everything, AI systems we feed daily.
Yeah.
These platforms already gather so much data they can predict our habits, our personalities, even our vulnerabilities.
I get.
Now imagine linking all of that behavioral data, that predictive power, linked to your genome, your fundamental biological blueprint, your ancestry.
That's a chilling combination.
It really is. And the article doesn't leave it abstract. It points to examples like China's social credit system, where cameras literally monitor behavior, and that score affects your access to jobs, loans, even travel. The article says this isn't science fiction anymore. It's just tomorrow, unless we pause.
Okay, so after digging into all of this,
Yeah.
what's the main takeaway for someone listening? It feels a bit overwhelming.
It can feel that way, but the deep dive isn't meant to be purely negative, not anti-science, or just a rant against checking your ancestry.
None of a wake-up call.
Exactly, a powerful reminder. The core message from the source is your data, especially your genetic data, is incredibly powerful. So your decisions about sharing it need to be just as informed and considered.
Because unlike a password.
Right. Your DNA is probably the most personal data you'll ever share. And unlike a password or an email, you can't revoke it, you can't rotate it, you can't change it.
Yeah.
Once it's out there, it's out there.
So whether you're thinking about giving it to a private company or it's being collected by a national program.
The article really urges you, make sure you know what you're really giving away. Because, and this line really sticks, the world is changing, and your genome might one day say more about you than anything you've ever posted online.
Wow. That puts it in perspective.
It does, and the source is clear. Thinking about this isn't being overly suspicious. It states simply, that's not paranoia, that's privacy.
Okay, so for people who've maybe already done a test,
Yeah.
are there practical steps?
Yes, the article suggests some. Go back and review your account's privacy settings. Understand if your data is being used for research and whether you consented to that. It also suggests considering downloading your raw data, your file, and then actually deleting your account if you're not comfortable with that company holding onto it indefinitely.
Right. Take back some control where you can.
Mm-hmm.
It really makes you think, doesn't it? How much power we might just give away without fully grasping the long-term implications, the permanence of this biological data.
It's a conversation we absolutely need to be having more openly.
Well, that's certainly given us, and hopefully you, a lot to chew on. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and join us next time for another deep dive.